Okay, thanks very much. I want to start by saying I'm not an expert in co-production, but I do have a great deal of experience working with public service organisations. Some of that experience wonderful and some of it painful in underpinning everything that they're doing with co-production and ensuring that co-production forms part of business as usual. So I'm going to talk about the most elusive of things, co-production in real life. And if you fancy dropping by the Ask Me Anything session later, we're going to talk about some of the observations that I make today in a bit more detail and about what works and doesn't work for all of us as we try to bring co-production into our organisations. When I talk about co-production, I'm talking about it in its broadest possible sense. So that is to say, we're talking about collaboration and cooperation between our organisations, between our services, and between ourselves. And this is happening, don't get me wrong, but we have to acknowledge that we can do it a lot better. So you'll hear people say that this is complicated, that it's complex, that it takes careful planning and consideration, and I'm sure in many cases it is new and it's different, but sometimes banging on about the unsettling complexity of all of this is what can be alienating. Alienating and scary. Public service is traditional and is set in its ways, and to try and force individuals and organisations to consider tradition in a different context can be terrifying. So how can we work together differently and make that less scary? Perhaps we can make it less of a case of throwing everything out and starting again. So co-production, collaboration, integration, stepping into the future, behaviour change, culture change, theory of change, learning by doing, deep diving, deep listening. This is just some of the jargon that you can find in most of the emails in my inbox right now. And I don't even fully understand a lot of these concepts, and I'm supposed to be living and breathing it. It would be helpful if we could cut through a lot of this talk, a lot of the blah blahing, because actually a lot of it is about common sense. And how do we know unless we sort of dive in and do some of these things? We need to stop talking and start doing. In the least cheesy way possible, we need to be brave and we need to take a couple of considered leaps into the unknown. We have such an opportunity in Wales to really take a step back and look at how we work together and explore doing so differently, thanks to our shiny, world-leading and a little bit touchy-feely, if we're being honest, legislation. I'm not saying working together differently isn't scary, it can be. Sometimes the things we do, we won't pull them off. We get it wrong and that'll be awkward and it'll be embarrassing and demoralising, but you know what? It can also be funny and fun and a good bonding experience and liberating. The alternative is that we do nothing. We keep working in the same old ways in our silos. We all know the implications this will have on resource and ultimately performance in the long run. What I'm saying though is it's easier to make something business as usual, for public services anyway, without all the song and dance, without pointing right at it and shouting, look at this is different. It's our job as champions of co-production to prize our more reluctant partners and colleagues outside of their comfort zone, even if that's a little bit at a time, until eventually the comfort zone becomes wider. There's a delicate balance between an ambitious vision and easing organisations away from traditional outputs and outcomes, and it won't happen at once. The reality is that we really are all in this together. You see what I did there? I've learned that we won't get very far if you're the sole person banging this drum. We need experiences, voices, perspectives to build up a bank of what works and what doesn't. More importantly, we need to continue to influence more champions within our organisations of working differently. This will enable us to keep doing what we're doing and learning from it. Our teams of champions are teams of doers. They don't have to be the people we're immediately surrounded by. They could be people from different organisations or different sectors or different parts of the country. That's what meaningful collaboration and cooperation looks and feels like. It's when barriers to who we work with and how are broken down. It's all about getting the balance right. People love a framework, right? If we're pushing our organisations to work differently, we still have to provide a framework. This is not anarchy. This is simply a different way of working, and a framework is very much a part of business as usual. In one of life's many confusing paradoxes, though, people also love a bit of freedom. So they want a framework and they want freedom, a freeing framework. That's what I've been working on at the moment. That's what I've been trying to write and implement in my day job. And it's absolutely as ridiculous and challenging as it sounds. And that's what I wanted to make my Ask Me Anything session about. So if you want to drop by later, we'll talk about the balance between framework and freedom and how we bring people with us. The great thing about working differently and the opportunities that we have at the moment here is that if something doesn't work, we can try something else. If something works, we can do more of it. But we must ensure that we create a culture where our organisations are entirely okay with the fact that Plan A might not be a total winner, and neither might Plan B, and neither, you get the picture. Remember that every single day is a school day, and whenever we try, even when we're getting it wrong, we're learning valuable lessons about how we build relationships, how we encourage buy-in, how we break down barriers between us and our partners, and how we influence decisions and policy makers. The important part is that we're trying, we're doing, we are actually stopping talking and getting on with it. My one point above all others is to keep going. It is complicated, it is complex, and everyone in the room will have their own experience and recognise some of the observations that I'm making. I'm not looking to tell you anything that you don't know. I'm looking to tell you I get it, and I feel your pain. I believe in the power of working together, and working together differently, and that's why I wanted to talk today. I believe that if we stick together and move forward a little bit at a time and bring the right people with us, then co-production very much has a place, a vital place, in business as usual within public services. We need to think how we support our organisations to find the right balance in all of this. Just as a final thought, I'm not going to take the AMA too seriously. It's really just an opportunity and a safe space for some people to come together, share our experiences and learn from each other and indulge in, quite frankly, what we all need, which is a little bit of group therapy. So that's all I have to say for now. Thanks very much, and I look forward to talking to you.